Tonight, no hiding from DeepSeek, the AI model from China behind a deep dive for tech stocks. We'll tell you how much an American company lost in a historic plunge.
Because now someone can do it for a fraction of the price.
And claims of built-in censorship. How did the app respond to our question about Tiananmen Square? On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, warnings from Holocaust survivors about the future.
If you don't do anything about it, it's going to repeat itself, which we are witnessing now.
A grieving husband's travel warning after his wife and son died while on vacation.
Living life without them is extremely hard.
Plus, not a drive-through. The shocking moment an SUV crashed into a BC restaurant. And move over Billy Joel, singing along with the piano lady.
I feel so lonely.
How she's staying young at 93 years old.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. A little-known artificial intelligence startup sparked a major tech tumble on the markets today and fears the company may be threatening American dominance when it comes to AI. China's DeepSeek says it cost just $5.6 million US to train its chatbot compared to the tens of millions American competitors such as ChatGPT and Google's Gemini have spent. That revelation contributing to the steep sell-off and a massive plunge for an American chip maker that today lost the most of any company in U.S. history. CTV's Adrian Gobriel tells us which one.
For a technology industry known as a disruptor, artificial intelligence companies were served a shocking disturbance of their own today.
All the assumptions that we've made about how Americans are leading the AI charge have just been blown up by this one single company, this one single product.
Monday's tech sell-off led to more than $100 billion in losses for the world's richest people. The culprit, DeepSeek, a Chinese AI startup founded in 2023, which just took over as the top-rated free app in America, leapfrogging US-based OpenAI ChatGPT.
You fear disruption, right? When a disruptor enters a space, it becomes very troublesome for the standing players.
All this from an AI app that was released just a month ago. DeepSeek is powered by an open-source model. Its researchers' claims that it was developed for just $6 million have in part triggered the sudden slide in the markets. If accurate, that's significantly less than the billions being spent by rival AI platforms, raising questions about the future of America's AI dominance and the scale of investments U.S. firms are planning.
All of that economic theory has now been turned on its ear because now someone can do it for a fraction of the price.
NVIDIA, the chip designer who has been a major beneficiary of the rise of AI, saw its stock slide more than 16% today, losing nearly $600 billion in market value, marking the single biggest one-day loss in U.S. history. CTV News asked DeepSeek to provide information about the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests in Beijing. The app responded requesting to talk about something else. The hype around DeepSeek is also being tempered due to data privacy concerns similar to those shared by TikTok, which is also owned by a Chinese company.
What does this mean for Privacy Acts, and where will the government come down on that? And let's face it, this is one time when you may get a lot of support domestically for some sort of restriction on this tool being used in the U.S.
Though U.S. President Donald Trump today called DeepSeek AI a wake-up call for the industry, that the United States needs to be laser-focused on competing to win. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
And U.S. President Trump continued his push to arrest undocumented immigrants.
We are putting more resources towards enforcement now.
Trump has ramped up his nationwide illegal immigration crackdown. Yesterday, authorities arrested nearly 1,200 undocumented immigrants, but only about half had prior criminal records. Trump's mass deportation plan led to a diplomatic showdown with Colombia, whose president abruptly turned away 2 U.S. aircraft with deportees. Trump quickly threatened a 25% tariff, prompting the Colombian president to back down. Israel says 8 of the remaining hostages set to be released by Hamas in phase 1 of the ceasefire are dead. This comes on the same day thousands of Palestinians returned home on foot to northern Gaza. Many returned to homes that have been damaged or completely destroyed. 90% of Palestinians have been displaced since the start of the war, sheltering in tent camps and former schools. Since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel, the country's deadliest single day, there has been a surge in anti-Semitism. And despite the horrific lessons from the Holocaust that shook the conscience of the world, on this 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, some of the last remaining survivors say some of the same mistakes of the past are being repeated. CTV's Colton Prale reports from Poland tonight.
It was 80 years ago the Soviet Red Army pushed through the gates of Auschwitz-Birkenau, liberating thousands of prisoners and unmasking one of the greatest atrocities ever committed. 8 decades later, some of the few survivors returned, laying candles at the base of a train car near the gates of the concentration camp.
We were helpless. We were abandoned. Nobody to complain to about our lot, and nobody or hardly anybody helped.
Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and world leaders joined survivors as they returned to the same grounds where an estimated 1.1 million people were killed, the overwhelming majority of them Jewish, including Miriam Ziegler's entire family.
I have the most horrible nightmares since October, and I was told I was coming here. I don't think I slept one night.
But Ziegler says their stories matter now more than ever.
I have to keep telling that story. It shouldn't happen again.
On behalf of all the survivors, I welcome the distinguished guests.
This anniversary is expected to be one of the last major milestones where a significant number of survivors will still be alive and able to share their memories in hopes of combating the rise of high-profile anti-Semitic incidents in Canada and around the world. Today, over 50 survivors were present, down from more than 100 5 years ago.
Auschwitz didn't come down from the sky. It started with words. And it ends with the chimney being burned and going out in the smoke.
Today, the Prime Minister announced $3.4 million in new funding to combat anti-Semitism and preserve Holocaust remembrance, repeating his commitment to the idea of never again. Omar.
Colton Prale in Poland tonight. As we mentioned, a rise in anti-Semitism in Canada has helped fuel a troubling increase in hate crimes. CTV's Andrew Johnson on the pain behind the numbers.
This Jewish girls' school in Toronto was targeted 3 times in 2024 with gunfire. At the time, Toronto police reported a 93% increase in reported hate crimes since the Israel-Hamas war, specifically targeting Jewish people, followed by LGBTQ2+, Black, and Muslim communities.
We understand that this is deeply unsettling for the Jewish community.
Rising anti-Semitism since the October 7th attack is not just unsettling for Holocaust survivors like Vancouver's Marie Dodak. It's history repeating itself.
Never again is here today.
Dodak was just 5 years old when the Nazis tore her family apart. She hid with non-Jewish families in Belgium, eventually making it to Canada in 1948. She can't believe what she's seeing in 2025.
Here in Canada, we see swastikas, we see people saying Heil Hitler.
She notes Jews aren't the only ones living in fear. The latest year-over-year data from Statistics Canada shows police-reported hate crimes rose more than 32%. Dodak and others believe education is the answer.
After learning about the Holocaust, the kids were much more likely to challenge another child in their school who was either drawing a swastika on the wall of a bathroom or who was bullying a Muslim kid in the playground.
The founder of Toronto not-for-profit Liberation 75 says the key to reversing anti-Semitism is starting age-appropriate Holocaust education sooner in grade 6.
This is a part of history people need to understand about what happens when hate goes unchecked.
Marie Donuk has lived it, and her message today is take action.
If someone makes, even in a joke, stand up to it. Don't be afraid.
Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
In Ottawa, questions are swirling around the removal of Chandra Arya from the Liberal leadership race. It comes on the last day for new members to sign up to vote for the next Prime Minister. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
I'm running to be the next Prime Minister of Canada.
Chandra Arya, the first Liberal to declare, has been ejected from the leadership race. The Ottawa MP had submitted the $50,000 deposit fee and said he gathered more than 1,000 signatures of endorsement. Arya says his removal raises significant questions about the legitimacy of the leadership race and, by extension, the legitimacy of the next Prime Minister of Canada. Arya was running on a platform of smaller government but does not speak French. The Foreign Affairs Minister says he's unqualified to be leader.
I expect the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada to be fully bilingual because we are in a bilingual country.
According to the Liberal Party constitution, the board can remove candidates with sole and unfettered discretion due to public statements, past improper conduct, and a lack of commitment to democracy. Just last year, Arya traveled to India to meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his own, at a time when the government had accused the Modi government of being involved in the killing of a Sikh activist. The Public Safety Minister, who has seen CSIS assessments on foreign interference, deflected when asked to comment.
That's questions better put to the Liberal Party of Canada, its executive and its executive director. I saw the announcement and I really have no other insight or comment.
There are now 6 candidates approved by the party to run. One is making a direct appeal to Arya's supporters.
We need your vote and your support to elect and to make history for the very first time and have the first Canadian Prime Minister from the South Asian and Indo-Canadian community.
The approved candidates still have to be confirmed by Elections Canada. Among them, former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney has more than double the number of caucus endorsements than his closest rival, Chrystia Freeland. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you. Overseas, thousands have fled fighting in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where Rwandan-backed rebels claim to have captured a city of 2 million people. The sound of gunfire could be heard near the airport in Goma as dozens of Congolese soldiers fled to a Rwandan border town, surrendering their weapons. The UN described mass panic among residents, many of whom also fled to Rwanda for safety. It is a major escalation in a decades-long fight over control of the region's valuable minerals. A Toronto man and his family have filed a lawsuit after the man's wife and young son both died just one day after arriving at a resort in the Dominican Republic. The father is speaking out publicly for the first time about the tragedy to prevent others from going through what he did. CTV's John Vanavalley-Rao spoke to him and has the story.
We took this, I think, the day before we left.
Steve Goujon showed us the last picture taken of his family before they headed off on a much-anticipated holiday to a resort in the Dominican Republic, a trip that quickly ended in an unimaginable tragedy.
I think people need to be aware of what can happen.
Upon arriving at the resort in the evening, the Goujon family went to the buffet. Early the next morning, all 4 of them became violently ill.
We were all throwing up.
Goujon says he called the medical clinic at the resort, but says he was told no one could come to their room and that the family had to get themselves to the clinic.
I explained the severity of our symptoms and the inability of any of us to make it to the medical center. And when I say severity, like, we couldn't even make it to the bathroom.
Goujon says he called again in the afternoon and pleaded for help, at which point he says the resort did respond, but says by then the family had to be transported by wheelchairs to the resort's medical center. They were then taken by ambulance to a local hospital, where Mom April and son Oliver took a turn for the worse.
They degraded in terms of their health, and then my son passed away, and then very shortly after, my wife passed away.
Goujon waited until the next morning to tell his 7-year-old son Wesley that both his mom and brother had died.
It's the worst thing that a father and a husband will ever have to do.
A coroner's report determined the pair died from secondary causes related to food poisoning.
Coming home was very hard. Everything, living life without them is extremely hard.
Now, a year later, Goujon has decided to speak out. He booked the trip through Air Transat Holidays. It, along with Wyndham Resorts and others, are named in a $10 million lawsuit filed on behalf of the Goujon family. The claim alleges the resort failed to follow proper hygiene protocols, have proper emergency protocols, and provide a timely response to the family's call for help.
I think that what the Goujon family would like is accountability. They'd like answers. They'd like somebody to take responsibility.
The company Transat says the hotel operator has assured us of its full cooperation with the authorities in shedding light on these tragic deaths. Transat Tours is also refuting the allegations made against it, none of which, Omar, have been tested in court.
Heartbreaking losses. John, thank you. Coming up.
There's a lack of objectivity.
Why Alberta doctors are calling out the findings of a provincial report into COVID. Plus, how this SUV ended up slamming into a BC restaurant.
Tomorrow.
He comes off caring, he's very charismatic.
But once he got their love, he took their money.
There wasn't an ounce of remorse.
On the trail of a romance scammer, his many victims, and many lies.
I was shocked.
W5 investigates tomorrow on CTV National News and ctvnews.ca.
A COVID-19 report commissioned by the Alberta government has been quietly released, sparking some loud reaction from health experts. CTV's Kathy Lee has the reasons why.
In a world still healing from the scars of COVID-19, a new report has emerged, stirring debate and concern.
It is presenting a very focused and incomplete version of many facts.
Commissioned by Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, costing $2 million, it offers recommendations from healthcare professionals and other experts following the province's pandemic response, including the government to refrain from future mask mandates for respiratory illnesses and stop using COVID-19 vaccines without full disclosure of potential risks. Health Canada saying vaccination remains one of the most effective ways to protect against serious illness, hospitalization, and death from COVID-19. The report also criticizes the use of lockdowns to control the spread of the disease and suggests more protection for doctors and pharmacists to promote alternative treatments.
We can take hydrochlorothiazide. That was studied. There was no benefit, and therefore it's not recommended for COVID. There have been randomized controlled trials that have shown no benefit for ivermectin.
Lead author Dr. Gary Davidson says he welcomes debate on anything in the report.
I actually am really concerned that it will have a really bad effect on public trust and impair future public health responses.
None of these recommendations should go forward without a full public discussion about the consequences.
The province says it will review and consider the report and its findings, but no policy decisions have been made yet. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
A startling moment caught customers off guard at a restaurant in BC. An SUV smashed through the front window, slammed into some tables, and tossed an employee sitting near the windows. The worker suffered a back injury and some cuts from broken glass, but was not seriously hurt.
The speed that she came into the restaurant, like it's something you see on YouTube, not in your own video recording. So it's quite shocking.
The owner said the driver was an elderly lady. It's unclear what caused the crash.
There was a car, she was on the sidewalk, and she was arguing with some people, drove straight down into the crowd.
And a camera caught that car driving into the crowd of fans celebrating the Philadelphia Eagles NFL playoff win last night, leaving 3 people hurt with what were described as non-life-threatening injuries. Police arrested the driver and say the collision did not appear to be intentional. Still ahead, big goals. Canada's men's soccer coach makes a bold guarantee. Google's Fitbit has been fined more than $12 million in the U.S. after failing to report a defect that could cause burns. The brand's Ionic smartwatches were recalled in Canada and the U.S. in 2022. There were complaints they overheated, along with 78 reported burn injuries. The U.S. recall notice said there were 2 reports of third-degree burns and 4 of second-degree burns. More than 70,000 of the watches were sold here in Canada and about 1 million in the U.S. Women's soccer has its first ever $1 million player.
I didn't know this would be possible for me, and yeah, I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity.
American defender Naomi Girma was signed by British team Chelsea from the San Diego Wave for the record-breaking amount. The 24-year-old has made 44 appearances for the U.S. national team, including at the Paris Olympics, where the team won gold. And Canada's men's national team is exactly 500 days away from playing the World Cup on home soil, and head coach Jesse Marsh is making some early predictions.
I think we'll get a win, but that's not our goal. Like, our goal is to get out of the group and win some matches, right? And so I'm not afraid to say that. Like, the team knows that, and they have the belief to do so.
And Canada will host 13 games at the tournament, kicking off next year in June. Still ahead. Keeping the love of music alive at 93 years young. For most people, retirement is a time to rest and relax. But for one lifelong music lover, Audrey Vale, who's now 93 years young, it's about sharing the soundtrack of her childhood and connecting with her Winnipeg community. CTV's Dan Timmerman listened in to what fuels the world performer's passion for the piano.
My mother used to run around the house singing all the time. And how did I learn these songs? They sat me at the piano. I have been playing across North America, the Virgin Islands, Scotland. Each place that I play is an experience. Music makes me feel warm all over. It makes me want to play. It makes me want to express myself. I feel so lonely, just for you only. It makes me want to be with people. The more people, the better I like it.
A beautiful lullaby on this Monday night. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.